Point Park Track places big. The Steelers discuss QB options, and an NBA trade shocks the world. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Bryn Reese, with another week of sports news. To start, Point Park Cheer and Dance kicked off its comp season, and the teams took 2 first-place titles at the annual Spirit Against Cancer Cheer and Dance competition. The comp took place at Penn State B-Rend in Erie, PA on Sunday. The event organizers raised money throughout the day to donate to cancer research. Over 75 performances on Sunday included collegiate, high school, and youth competition cheer and dance teams. Now, in one day, the competition raised over $12,000 for charity, breaking an all-time record for fundraising and attendance alike. Mind you, the comp has taken place every year since 2001. First, the Pioneers took part in the college pom category, taking first place uncontested with 63 points out of 70. Then the dance team premiered its first ever competitive hip-hop routine, competing in the college hip-hop category. The Pioneers earned second place with 62 points out of 70, falling to Gannon University's 63.66 point routine. Now, to close the night, Point Park Cheer competed in the college intermediate cheer category, taking home yet another first place title with a score of 71 out of 90 points to beat out Onondaga Community College. Cheer and Dance traveled to Slippery Rock in March to compete in its next competition. Now, more on Point Park sports. We have Edmi Idalis reporting on Point Park women's basketball. Edmi?
Thanks, Bryn. This past Saturday, women's basketball struggled in a conference matchup against West Virginia Wesleyan at the Rockefeller Center in Buchanan, West Virginia. The Pioneers started the game close to the Cardinals in the first quarter with a higher field goal success rate. Point Park still found themselves short, with the quarter ending with Wesleyan ahead 19-17. Going into the second quarter, 2 points down, the Pioneers fought to catch up, but ultimately fell short, with the Cardinals ahead 39-33. Heading into the second half, Point Park was down 6 points. The Pioneers had a tough time in the third quarter, with their field goal success rate dropping to 30%, and the Cardinals rising to 50%. Point Park ended the third quarter down 15 points, with the score being 57-42. With the fourth quarter came the Pioneers' last chance to catch up to the Cardinals. Looking at the fourth quarter alone, Point Park had a strong performance, but being down 15 points, the Pioneers were unable to catch up, ending the game with a score of 73-58. Point Park's leading players were Ari Blada with 16 points and 4 assists, and Chloe Williams with 11 rebounds. Point Park has 2 conference matchups coming up, the first on Wednesday, February 5th against Glenville State, followed by a game against Concord on Saturday, February 8th. Let's go Pioneers! Now to Ryan Quinn for an update on the men's team. Ryan?
Thanks, Edmi. The men's basketball team had 2 games this past week that both ended in heartbreaking fashion. The first was last Wednesday against the Davis and Elkins Senators. The defense was amazing to start the game, with Point Park holding Davis and Elkins to 31% on the field. After leading 9 points heading into the second half and getting the lead up to 13, it seemed like the Pioneers were heading towards victory, but D&E had other plans. They returned the favorite of Point Park, holding them to 33% on the field while being 50% themselves. The team effort from the Senators allowed them to finally break the lead with 2 minutes to go in the game. After fighting to get the lead in the first place, Davis and Elkins stood their ground, coming out with a narrow victory, being 64-63. The next game was on the road against the West Virginia Wesleyan Bobcats, where the shoe was on the other foot for the Pioneers. They ended the first half down 49-32 and had a deficit of 23 points to overcome early in the second, but a 21-2 point run in the 8 minutes led by Caden Warner, Aiden Anderson, and Aiden Miller allowed the Pioneers to have a chance at a comeback. However, it was too little, too late. A last-second off-balance 3 from Warner did not fall, and the Pioneers fell to the Bobcats 82-79. Point Park had a tough time defending with the 3, with Wesleyan being 46% from downtown. One highlight of the run is that Caden Warner was named Point Park Men's Athlete of the Week, having a stat line of 47 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, and 5 steals in the 2 games played. Following those two losses, the Pioneers look to get back in the win column on the road against Glenville State on Wednesday. Now back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, Ryan. After the break, more on Point Park Sports. Welcome back. Point Park Indoor Track and Field closed one for the books on Saturday at the YSU Collegiate Mid-Major in Youngstown. The two-day meet ended in 16 PR times, 2 broken school records, and 25 top 10 finishers for the Pioneers. Point Park faced off against 40 other universities on the NCAA Division I, II, and III level. The Pioneers towed the line with nearby schools such as Duquesne, IUP, and West Liberty. Now, the Point Park women's team walked away with 15 of the top 10 finishes in both of the 2 broken records. Sophomore Cassandra O'Connor continues to break barriers in distant events at Point Park, and she went for gold with the PR time in the 5,000-meter race, capturing a first-place spot with 17 minutes and 31.1 seconds. O'Connor's performance ranked second best in school history and 44th in Division II times so far this season. The only other first-place finish in the weekend came from first-year runner Dunya Vanden Toren in the women's pentathlon high jump. Her jump of 1.65 meters solidified her as the second highest performer in Point Park history and the 50th highest in D2 records this season. Additionally, Vanden Toren set a school record in the pentathlon final with a 7th-place finish in the meet. Junior Lotte Zetov broke a Point Park record of her own in the women's 500, finishing second in the meet. First-year Paige Marnell finished less than 1 second later for a 4th-place finish and the second-best time in school history. As for the men's team, 10 Pioneers cracked a top 10 spot against extremely worthy opponents. Senior Yannick Windelband broke the top 10 in 2 different events as he placed 4th in the mile and 6th in the 800. His 800 time ranked 4th in the Point Park record book. Maxwell Good took 10th place in the triple jump with 13 meters even, and junior Michael Quigley just missed the top 10 with a PR jump of 12.72 meters for 14th place. After breaking his own school record last month, sophomore Akeem Mustafa beat 50 other competitors in the long jump. He earned a 2nd place spot with 7.44 meters. And finally, senior David Atrum made a statement in the field events, earning notable placements in the shot put open and the weight throw elite. He placed 2nd in the shot put and 9th in the weight throw. Atrum's weight throw of 14.36 meters ranked 4th in program history. The Point Park men's and women's teams continue their dominant indoor season this Saturday at the Sykes and Sabach Challenge, hosted by Penn State and State College, PA. Now that's all for Point Park Sports, but what's coming in the week ahead? Men's and women's hoops travel to the Glenville State Pioneers tomorrow night. Track and field goes east to compete in the Sykes and Sabach meet in State College. Then for one of the final times this season, Point Park basketball plays at home against Concord at 2 and 4 p.m. Get all the news and more on pointparksports.com and stream games for free on mountaineast.tv. But that's all for now. Tune in next week for your weekly Point Park Sports Update. Now on to Pittsburgh sports. We have Ryan Thiele with the latest. Ryan?
Thanks, Bryn. It has yet been another busy week here in Pittsburgh, starting with the Pens. The Penguins edged out by the San Jose Sharks 2-1. Sidney Crosby netted the lone goal for Pittsburgh, which marked their third consecutive loss. Pittsburgh rebounded with a 3-2 overtime win against the Utah Hockey Club. Captain Sidney Crosby scored the game-winning goal with a backhanded shot. The Penguins would keep the good time rolling with a 3-0 shutout against the Nashville Predators. Sidney Crosby extended his goal streak to 4 games, and goalie Alex Nedeljkovic recorded 25 saves for his 9th career shutout. The Pittsburgh Penguins set to host the New Jersey Devil on Tuesday, February 4th at PPG Paints Arena. This game marks the last home appearance before the four-nation face-off break. Moving over to the Steelers, team president Art Rooney II discussed the quarterback situation following a 10-7 season that ended with a 5-game losing streak. Steelers are considering retaining either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. With a preference for a longer-term solution, Wilson, 36, has expressed desire to finish career in Pittsburgh. When asked about the decision, Mr. Rooney had to say, quote, "My preference would be to sign one of them," end quote. Then continued to say, quote, "So that will be the priority, and I think that will give us the best opportunity to move forward. We have some decisions to make there. I thought Russ and Justin both looked promise in certain stretches during the season, and I think they are both capable of being starters in the league. So we have decisions, and they have decisions too," end quote. To round off this week, let's head towards the diamond, as right-handed pitcher Johan Oviedo lost his salary arbitration case and will earn $850,000 for the 2025 season. Oviedo missed the entire previous season due to Tommy John surgery. In other Pirates news, pitchers and catchers report to Bradenton on February 4th. The first spring training game will be held on February 22nd against the Baltimore Orioles. That's all for me this week. Back to you, Bryn.
Thanks, Ryan. Next, we have exclusive national news. All this and more after the break.
Take them cue and open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Megan Lukic is here with an update on the Utah Hockey Club's team name. Megan?
Thanks, Bryn. The Utah Hockey Club is currently holding a fan vote to determine what the team's official name will become. It was originally planned that the team would be called the Yetis. However, the trademark application for the name was rejected by the United States Patent Office, citing a, quote, likelihood of confusion, end quote, with the Yeti Coolers brand. This led to the organization to turn to the fans for help. Voting opened last Wednesday at the Delta Center as Utah began a 4-game homestand. Originally, the 3 proposed names were the Mammoth, the Wasatch, named after a mountain range found in the state of Utah, and Hockey Club, their current name. After the first night of voting last week, the option of Utah Wasatch was replaced with the Utah Outlaws. The organization tweeted on Thursday saying, quote, "We listened to your feedback and dug into all the Qualtrics data from last night's survey. For the team name, it's clear that Outlaws should be in the mix instead of Wasatch, so we're swapping it out," end quote. Yesterday evening, it was confirmed by insider Frank Saravalli that these team logos are in fact being presented to Utah fans as a part of the vote. However, these logos are not the final versions and are likely to change in the future. The voting for the name concludes tonight, but it is unknown when the winning name will be announced as it still needs to pass through the trademark and patent process. Next, Ronan Lancaster has news on one of the biggest trades in NBA history. Ronan?
Thanks, Megan. Just before midnight on Saturday, February 1st, NBA insider Shams broke news that shocked the NBA world and all of its fans. The news that broke was that the Dallas Mavericks had traded their star player, Luka Doncic, to the Lakers. The trade was a 3-team trade that included Dallas, Los Angeles, and Utah. The Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, and Dallas received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. The Jazz acquired Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 2025 second-round picks. Now, this trade was definitely a shocker, as Luka Doncic has been so good and he's only 25 years old. It was so shocking, players were immediately tweeting as soon as they heard the news. A tweet from Jalen Brunson said, quote, "April Fools, right?" End quote. Others included the quote, "Shams got hacked," end quote, from Tyrese Halliburton, and Bam Adebayo was feeling the same way, saying, quote, "Did something happen to Shams' phone?" End quote. I think the NBA players reacted the same way most of us did to this shocking blockbuster trade. We'll see how this trade shakes out for both of the teams make their playoff push and hope to help their chances at making and winning the NBA Finals. Now, Ryan Jones reports on one of wrestling's biggest events. Ryan?
Thanks, Ronan. This past weekend, the highly anticipated Royal Rumble took place at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. This night consisted of 4 matches, with the Men's and Women's Rumble, a Tag Team Championship match, and a ladder match for the WWE Undisputed Championship. They started off the night with the Women's Rumble as there was returns from a few superstars. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair were the most anticipated returns of the night, and WWE Hall of Famer Nikki Bella made a return as number 30, and she made herself known, but Charlotte ended up eventually winning the Rumble and punching her ticket to the main event of WrestleMania this April. The next match was a 2 out of 3 falls match between the current tag team champions DIY versus the challengers, the Motor City Machine Guns. It was a close match, but DIY ended up retaining their championships. Then the ladder match between the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes faced off against Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. This match was a heavy hitter, as some fans called it match of the night, with unbelievable moments. This match was going both ways the entire time until both superstars found themselves on the top of the announcer's table when Cody Rhodes did the unthinkable and slammed Kevin Owens through the bridged ladder below. He eventually returned to the ring, climbed the ladder, and retained his title. Lastly, the night ended with the 30-man Royal Rumble. This match was loaded with superstars, Hall of Famers, NXT superstars, and even internet sensations like Logan Paul and IShowSpeed. This was also John Cena's start to his farewell tour and his last Royal Rumble ever, as he announced his retirement late last year. After an insane match, it was down to the final 2, John Cena and Jey Uso. The world was behind Cena throughout the entire match until both superstars ended up on the apron. Then Jey Uso managed to push Cena off and declared his spot in the main event of WrestleMania 41. That is another detour in the road for John Cena, as he is still searching for his record-breaking 17th world title. That's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, everyone. When we come back, we discuss the state of the NBA as the trade deadline approaches. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, we've already seen some blockbuster NBA deals, but with the trade deadline right around the corner, there's still some stars on the market. I'm joined by Nathan, Gabe, and Ronan to discuss potential moves. So we'll kind of start out, what do we think are some for sure trades on the horizon that we're going to see in the next couple of days?
Yeah, well, I think for sure, Yusuf Nurkic is somebody from the Phoenix Suns. He's not been playing. They've just benched him. So I think and another center, Jonas Valanciunas, who's also, these are kind of low-tier players, but they're like for sure going to get traded to trade deadline. Also, another name, Cam Johnson, the Brooklyn Nets guard. I think he's going to get traded for sure, too. Brooklyn's entering a rebuild, and it just makes sense for them to deal him. I also think, Jimmy Butler's going to be the big name that we're talking about going into the trade deadline as well. He declined, allegedly from the Warriors, a trade from there. So I honestly don't know where he's going to go. He has a no trade, so we'll see where that ends up. But
yeah, Gabe?
I'd like to point out Jimmy Butler is going to be traded. He's not playing for the Heat, and he's a caliber player that's going to be a third option on a championship team, and someone's going to be out there seeking him and his services. So I think he's someone who gets traded. And our person, Bradley Beals, I feel like is really going to be moved, and that's someone you didn't mention. But the money he's getting paid is astronomical for his production, and the Suns eventually need to go down that rebuilding path, and we're going to see that soon, I think.
Yeah.
I expect the Bulls to kind of blow up whatever they have left. I expect Nikola Vucevic to get moved. I also expect Lonzo Ball to be a name that's looked at. I wouldn't be surprised if they move him because after you move Levine, that's your best player. So they have nothing. They have nothing left to play for. So why would you keep those? My thing is, why would you keep those players? I'd send them to a team that they might have a better chance to win. I also expect Brandon Ingram to possibly get moved from the Pelicans. I'm not, I don't know if there's a specific place that he would go, but and another name is New York Knicks, Mitchell Robinson. He's definitely been looked at. I know the Lakers need a center, especially after losing AD, so they're definitely shopping for centers. So those are a couple names.
Yeah. So I'm going to circle back to Jimmy. Obviously, Butler's been the big name we've been talking about. Where do you guys think he's going to go? Where do you think he should go? Whoever wants to pitch in on that.
Okay, so I'm going to say I think that the Heat could get the best package from the Atlanta Hawks because I think they're looking to pair Trae Young with another superstar because they feel like their front office hasn't really made enough splash moves since they made the Eastern Conference Finals in 21. And they still think Trae Young is that threshold player that can get them there, so they're missing a piece. And I think they could really sell them Jimmy Butler, especially as a team that really lacks defense just in general, but on the wing especially. You could really sell them Jimmy as the piece to acknowledge that, get some picks back, and then I think you could come out pretty well with that.
Yeah.
I agree. I actually agree with that. That's a good move because obviously Trae Young needs another star to play along with, and I think a good name that they could move to Miami is DeAndre Hunter. Because obviously, he's not. I don't think he's panned out the way they've wanted him to, but he's still a good, solid player, can give you good minutes. So I think that's a good move. But honestly, I would like to see. I know this isn't super realistic. I like to see Jimmy to go to the Mavericks. I think it's actually a good move for the Mavericks to really push for the finals because right now they're in the back of the playoffs. Obviously, I think they're in a play-in. So I think the Mavericks, if they got Jimmy, they'd be set up pretty well.
I like both those Hawks and Mavs for sure. I think if the Mavericks got them, they would be finals, maybe 1 or 2, and with this rare there with the Celtics. But I'm gonna go Warriors. I know he allegedly rejected a trade from there, but I think if the Warriors are trying to go for one last all-in push with Steph, with Draymond, I think you pair Jimmy there. You probably trade Andrew Wiggins to the Heat in that deal and some picks. But I think those three and then Kuminga, I think that would be kind of a good move for Golden State if they want to push. Now, maybe they sell, I'm not sure, but I think if they want to really go for it one last time, I think Jimmy of the Warriors would be pretty good.
Yeah, so now we're going to go to Ingram. He's a really big piece right now. What do we see? Where do we see him going?
I see him going to Brooklyn, to be honest, because I think Brooklyn won't turn full heel on the rebuild. I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to flip Simmons, and I think they're going to end up keeping Cam Johnson and a couple of the younger guys, and they're going to try to get Ingram. He's 27. He can score well. He can be your first option scoring on a team, and he does everything else well. He's about 5 rebounds, 5 assists a game. So I could see the Nets trying to flip and rebuild kind of with him as their centerpiece of their new team going forward.
I would disagree with that because Brandon Ingram has struggled with injuries a little bit. So when you're a team that's kind of on the bottom half, I don't know if you would take a bet on a player who's not he's not like a superstar. He's a very good player. but I wouldn't take a bet on a player like that who is injury prone throughout his career. But I would like to see Brandon Ingram actually go to the Hawks again. I think that's another good fit. With Trae Young, someone else. I feel like it's kind of what they thought DeJounte Murray could be, but obviously that didn't pan out. But I feel like Brandon Ingram could be, pair well with Trae Young down in Atlanta.
Nets are interesting because they got a lot of picks, and if they do go in the direction of maybe getting a Brandon Ingram, they could sell some of them picks off if they want to maybe go for it, in the next couple of years. I think the Thunder would be an interesting spot for Brandon Ingram because I think, they got obviously SGA, right, and they got Chet and they got Jalen Williams. But I think if you add a Brandon Ingram too, I think that really bodes well for them. I think they should just keep adding if they have the roster and cap flexibility to do something like that and really put themselves. I think they already are a solid one at the top of the Western Conference, but if they do something like that, they could really challenge Boston for the potential NBA championship this year.
Yeah, I want to take a second and talk about the Bulls. Obviously, they have Vucevic, which has been in the talks a lot. I think there's a lot of potential there. What moves should the Bulls make?
I think the first move they should make is Vooch. They should try to send him to a team like Detroit because they have a budding superstar like Cade, and they're going to take the step towards trying to win because they were obviously like a historically bad team last year, and now they're about a 500 team. And I think especially the way their team is constructed, they have Ron Holland's a defender, Thompson's a defender, and even their starting center, Jalen Duren's a defender. So Vooch, he's very clearly not a defender, but he gives you floor spacing and he gives you offensive flexibility off the bench. If you want to start him, bench him behind Duren, let him develop, or you can start him now and let Duren come behind him. So I think he gives them a lot of room to work going forward. So I like him going to Detroit.
I like him. I think Phoenix is okay, but I don't love that. But I think honestly the Lakers would be a good spot for him to go to. He stretches out the floor kind of like AD did. He just doesn't have that the defensive ability that AD does. But they need a center. They need someone down there to get rebound, and he really stretches the floor for LeBron because we know LeBron's he's going to be their offense there. So I think that's a good fit, and they can definitely flip him for a pick or two.
I agree completely with you, Rod, and I think the Lakers are a great spot for Nikola Vucevic. They get Luka, right? They got LeBron. They got all these pieces. They got Connect. They got Reeves. They need a center, though. You're not rolling with Jackson Hayes as your starter or whoever they want to throw in there. So I think if you pair Vooch with that team, I think they could really challenge, maybe not as an NBA Finals contender this year, but especially going forward with the Luka move signaling they're going for the future. I think if you put Vucevic there and maybe sign him long term, I'm not sure his age, he's kind of getting up there, but I think he would be a good fit for the Lakers this season and maybe for the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in the last couple of days, we've seen a lot of KD talks. Where do we think that's going to go?
Someone else can do it first.
I personally, I don't see him getting moved.
Yeah,
With all the Jimmy talks and Jimmy, reportedly wanting to go to Phoenix, I don't see that happening. I don't see them, moving on from Kevin Durant. I would see them sticking with what they have. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I could see maybe a buy-sell approach by Phoenix, maybe trying to ship off Bradley Beal if they could, like you mentioned earlier. I think Kevin Durant, I think he stays put.
Yeah, I want to touch back on Beal. You already kind of mentioned it, but what do you think is going to happen to Beal?
I honestly don't know if he's going to trade because his contract is such a. It would have to go to a team with a ton of cap space right now. Maybe I don't think he's not the kind of player that you buy out, but I think with that contract, it's going to be hard to move him to any contenders, right? Unless they, in Oklahoma City, but I don't know if they don't. It's not really fit, and then they kind of have the cap space. But Bradley Beal, it's going to be tough, just like I mentioned with the contract. But I could see the Phoenix Suns trying to move him for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Heat want to move on from Jimmy Butler, so I think realistically that Bradley Beal would be a good return for them because the Heat can they can still win games right now. They can still make a push for the playoffs. I feel like Tyler Hero's been playing really good. They've got some good role players down there. Obviously, Bam Adebayo. I feel like Bradley Beal could go in there, fit in there, and play some solid basketball for the Heat.
Yep. All right, want to touch on Kyle Kuzma. Where do we think what's going on with him?
Kyle Kuzma, he could go to any team that's not contending and get paid, but if you're talking contending teams, I could see him going to maybe like a Denver type team, maybe like a team that just needs someone that can stand and shoot. And that's like what they're good at. And that's what Kyle Kuzma can maybe provide at an elite level was a catch and shooter. That's when he was the best in his career, so I'll say Denver.
I would say Milwaukee actually. I think he's a he's a younger version of Chris Middleton in a way. He's a little taller, but I think he would be able to fill the role of what Chris Middleton plays with Giannis, of being that shooter for the team. And I feel like that'd be a good move to move on from a vet like Chris Middleton and bring in a younger guy, Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah. I love the Denver Kyle Kuzma potential move. I think he really fits well with them. They need some more scoring. They need somebody to move to the bench. They need some more bench scoring overall. I think that'd be a nice fit for the Nuggets, but I also think the Bucks are a great fit too, and there are rumors about maybe a potential Kuzma-Middleton swap in Milwaukee and Washington, so maybe that happens, but I like either fit for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see about these players. I kind of want to go team by team on your guys's who you follow. What are some moves you want to make? I know over here we have a Knicks fan. Ronan, what do you want to see from New York?
Well, I want to see the Knicks get rid of Jericho Sims. He's not doing anything for them. And then I wouldn't be mad if they moved on from Mitchell Robinson, but honestly, I would keep him, but I would still bring in a big if they can. Like, I would be interested in Chris Boucher, because obviously if Mitchell Robinson, they want him healthy. If he can play healthy, you can still have Boucher play at the 4, and he can shoot. He can bring an offense. He's an offensive threat. He can score. So I think that is a move I would like for the Knicks. They've been rumored to bring in like Jonas Valanciunas, but nobody on the market is going to bring in the same defensive intensity that Mitchell Robinson can when healthy.
Yeah. Gabe?
You want me to speak on the Knicks or my team?
Or the Thunder. Yeah.
Okay, so as a Thunder fan, I want us to do absolutely nothing. I want us to stick with our team now. We have no reason to rush what we have. We have 14 picks coming up in the first round in the next 6 years, and we have a team that's #1 in the conference by 6 games, I believe. Mm-hmm. There's no need for us to make an unnecessary move for Kevin Durant or for Brandon Ingram. Like, there's no need. We have scoring, we have defense, and we're going to have to figure out who we're going to pay. So I say we just let them, give them a couple years, see who's good, who's going to stay, and who's there for the long term. So I like what we have.
Yeah, Nathan, who's your team?
Well, this is tough because I like the Nuggets Kyle Kuzma thing, and my favorite team's kind of the Cavs, but they might do like just a little bench move here or there. But I think for the Pacers, that's my third team. I think if they get Cam Johnson, I think that'd be a really nice addition for an Indiana team that's definitely going on the up. People are down them. I think they're on the up, and I think they can win a couple series like they did last year.
That's a good defender there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this all plays out in the next couple of days, but that is all the time we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.